Ambari Zenu, hi guys. So good to see you. And welcome to my channel again, the Joe Morobe Bakes channel. Today I look like a store that sells baking equipment. There's a reason for that. Today's episode is actually an overdue episode. I know I've been promising to talk about basic baking equipment, all things you need when you're starting a baking. Probably should have been the one that we started with, Mr. Director. I personally blame you. But anyway, today we'll be talking about basic equipment that you need, must-haves, and good-to-haves. But I'll be talking about the basic ones, and I'm probably telling you what they are needed for. If you are a home baker, if you are starting to bake commercially, or you are a hobby baker, or transitioning in between the three phases. Let's get baking. Let's get right into it. We're talking about basic baking equipment for any baker. Beginner, hobby baker, maybe you're starting out as a commercial baker, or you're just a home baker. It's something you enjoy to do, or you're thinking of gifting a friend of yours who's a baker who wants to start but probably has never had the equipment. Baking is an exact science, guys. Baking is an exact science. I know I've gotten asked by people about measuring cups. That is weighing by volume. If you want to have accurate results every time, I'd strongly recommend that you run out and get a couple of this or one of this. The price of this actually is the price equivalent of measuring cups, good measuring cups. Why am I talking about it being an exact science? You see, this is the thing I prefer to measure by weight. This is the thing. Flour. How much is 1 cup of flour? You understand? Is it pressed down? Is it, had you sifted the flour? 1 cup of flour is not 1 cup of almonds, 1 cup of dried fruits. And it's just so much easier to weigh by weight. Get a couple of these. Digital weighing scale. Number 1. Easy to get nowadays. They're being sold in supermarkets. They're being sold in bake supply shops. There are even people who just sell them, like they sell weighing equipment. Let's talk protective equipment for you as the baker. A nice apron to protect your clothes, your nice clothes, clothes from getting cake batter, icings, eggs, those take a while to come off. To siharibu swag, so get an apron. I prefer denim because it's heavy and it can be washed many times, and it's also we're protecting ourselves. Also, sometimes there are spills like from hot liquids or you're making a caramel. You don't want that on your clothes or on your person. Please do not attempt to get anything out of the oven without a couple of this. These are called oven gloves. They are available. Bake supply supermarkets are selling them. Decor stores that sell home decor or home equipment, kitchen equipment will have this. Mine are made from silicone and cloth. They are available in cloth. They are available in heavy silicone, but I prefer both because comfort for the cloth and silicone protection from spills and liquids and stuff like that. And silicone is actually pretty much its resistance, so much more so than just plain cloth. All right. A couple of these also help. These are like kitchen towels. Not only do they come in handy for wiping or tidying up or drying dishes, but you can use them to, But remember, dry. Do not use them to grab hot things from the oven if they are wet. Conduction of heat, you'll end up with a very bad scald. So, protective equipment. Now, let's talk about mixing equipment. Some of it is multi-purpose. These are wire whisks, balloon whisks. They come in different shapes. They're coil, balloon. I personally prefer this one. I have 2 sizes. This comes in handy. You might have noticed on the channel, I like mixing dry flour and baking soda, flour and baking powder, or cocoa and flour. Perfect. If I want to whip up eggs, and for example, there is no power where I'm baking at, this will come in. And if I'm trying to make a meringue, whipping up egg whites and sugar, then yeah, this will come in handy. These are spatulas, silicone or rubber spatulas. This serve as for mixing or for transferring dough out of a bowl into a baking tin. For example, I'm avoiding wastage. So if I mix my dough in this, I'll use my rubber spatula to get every bit of dough out of there and into the baking tin or pie tin. All right. These are handy. They also come in for mixing or folding in. When you're folding in, like for example, when we made the chocolate cake, if you remember, wet ingredients, dry ingredients, you fold them in, because rubber spatula comes in handy. Some bakers will tell you, they will swear by wooden spoons. Your average mwiko, in Kenya we call it. That also comes in handy for mixing and for sometimes stirring, like cooking mixtures, like you're making a sauce. This one made a blueberry sauce. As you can see, it's pretty red. So we're making a blueberry filling for some cake, and yeah, we started with this and some of the color remained on there. So mixing and stirring equipment. Now, you need to bake your cakes somehow, or your whatever you're baking, bread, cake. I strongly suggest getting, I do a lot of tall cakes. Whatever baking tin you get, guys, please be sure to get 2 of those if you can. All right, because some cakes require that you bake them in layers, and you want equal layers. Like you remember the Victoria sandwich, you remember the red velvet cake, even the chocolate cake, we baked it in 2 layers, equal layers. So I do a lot of tall cakes, so I use the 6-inch round tins quite a bit, but I also have a couple of 7-inch tins as well, and I have a couple of 8-inch square tins. Whatever you get, you can start with just one size. 7-inch, 8-inch, 9-inch round, that's a good size to have, because you can do a lot of cakes with those. But please, if you can, get 2 of those. All right. Then for bread, when you're making sandwich loaves, or when you're making like tea cakes that are taken with tea, you need this bread loaves. They are multi-purpose. You can use them to bake bread. You can use them to make like loaf tins, banana bread, loaf tins. I got a couple because sometimes the mixture I make, I need to bake a lot of mixtures at the same time. Maybe I mixed a banana bread that is huge, and they couldn't fit in one mix, in one tin. Then, my absolute fantastic favorite, cupcake or muffin tins. They come in different, there's a 6-hole one, and there is a 12-hole one. They're even larger ones, but if you're just starting out, get this, because I mean, this, you'll be able to bake 12 cupcakes at once. Actually 18 cupcakes, that's 18 cupcakes. If you get 2 of these, that is 24 cupcakes at once. Some of this, you need a baking pan. For when you're making cookies and biscuits, or if you're making like a Swiss roll, or sheet cakes, the ones that are, the cakes that are big and being sliced into smaller pieces, these come in handy. And of course, with those baking paper, please get lots of this, have this on hand, because it helps to protect whatever is baking. Like if you're baking cookies, you need to line this with this, and even some cakes, you need to line some of the cupcakes, some of the cake tins with baking parchment or baking paper, it's called. If you like making pies, like I do, you need one of these. This is a pie dish, pie tin. I prefer this one because it's removable. It makes the work of removing the pie much easier once it's baked. I also have this one. It's an enameled pie tin, pie dish. If you can't, get one of each, or just one. Any will do. Personal preference. I even have a ceramic one. We'll be showing that later. I have a ceramic one. But pie tins, when you're making tarts and pies, you can get the small ones, the small tartlet tins, even better. Now, let's talk about baking being an exact science. There are some bakes that require an exact oven temperature. I know you're saying, but my oven has that thing which I can turn, and it's you know, this is not very, it's not expensive, and I've had this for like 3-4 years. You can clearly see. I've had this for 3 to 4 years. Please get one of these, guys. I got this because I use a gas oven. Gas oven, you can preheat it at 180, and by the time you're coming to bake you put your baked goods inside the oven to bake, it's at 240. Then they're burning on the outside and not cooking in the middle, so you need to be aware and to know the exact oven temperature. And even if you have an electric oven, please check, because most ovens, again, it depends on your kind of oven, but get yourself an oven thermometer. It's an absolute must-have, in my view, because oven temperatures for some bakes like macarons, or for some macarons come to mind, and some cakes, some kinds of sponge cakes, if you bake them at a high heat, higher or lower, or even if you're making like pavlova. Pavlova is a meringue. You need exact temperature of oven temperature. So please get yourself one of these. This is a good to have. Again, this is a probe thermometer. I use it mostly for sugar. If I'm making a caramel or I'm making a meringue, like the Italian meringue, we put the sugar and water on high heat before adding into the egg whites. This will give you an accurate temperature reading, because remember, we are cooking the sugar that high to make the egg whites food safe by cooking them, to get rid of any bacteria like naturally occurring salmonella, blah blah blah, or other bacteria. We are making the egg whites, the raw egg whites, food safe. So you need a good temperature. We make them food safe at a certain temperature, and you need one of these to do that. Again, in Kenya, if you live in Kenya, they have become quite available. I think I bought this for what, 400 shillings? Whereabouts. But it's lasted forever. This one, and then I got the one that changes the battery, which is even better. If you can get the digital one, or there are even some out there that are like they take the thermometer, they take the temperature, whatever is cooking, from infrared, as in you don't need to massive. If you can afford that one, even better. It will last you longer, and do you well. Did we talk about this? No, we didn't. Muffin cups. These are important if you're making muffins, not only just to protect them from the tin, but they also makes it look pretty. Like, I mean, if you've eaten cupcakes growing up like me, this was also a fun thing to eat afterwards. Don't do this at home. Kids, don't eat the cup. These are made from paper. Get good quality ones that don't stick, or that don't, move away from the cupcake once it's baked. They're available in shapes, sizes, and colors, and different qualities. The good ones are the ones that come in the same material as the baking paper. We talked about pies and doughs. Or if you're making scones, remember when we were making scones? These are rolling pins. Of course, I have a variety. I have a variety in various materials. This is a metallic one. I like using this one for when I'm making puff pastry, because I can actually chill the rolling pin, and it's cold, because for puff pastry you need everything as cold as possible. And then I have the usual wooden one that in Kenya we use for even making chapati. And then I have a couple of silicone ones for different sizes of, it depends on the, even if I'm making fondant, I will roll it out with this one, especially if I'm covering a large cake, I'm making smaller details. Yeah. Rolling pins for doughs and pastry and other baked goods that you might need to roll the dough out. This is a fine mesh sieve, guys. You've noticed every time I bake, I sieve my flour. I sift my flour. If I'm using, I'm making a chocolate cake, I'll sieve the flour with the cocoa. Why am I doing that? To basically aerate the flour, introduce air into the flour, and to remove any impurities that might be in the flour, especially for cakes. But if you're working with flour, guys, pastry, just get into the habit of sieving or sifting your flour every time before using it. You end up with a much finer crumb texture, and it's just, if there were any impurities in the flour, they remain out here, but get into the habit of sieving your flour, sieving your icing sugar. When you bake, you will need stuff to mix your stuff in, to hold mixtures. For example, I'm creaming sugar and butter together. Bowls, guys. Over time, I've discovered glass and metal work best. One, it's the ease of cleaning. Plastic is fine if that's what you can get for now. But think about moving towards these ones because they're easier to clean. There are no residues. Like for example, if it's easier to clean these ones and there is no residue. For example, if I did very strong smelling ingredients or oils and greases, or I was making a meat pie or I was making a vegetable pie and the vegetables that the mixture was, very strongly flavored, and I don't want that to affect the next cake I bake, it's easier to clean this one. Get metal in different sizes, of course. Because some enameled ones, not very good quality because the enamel came right off. But you can get these metallic ones, plain metallic ones, the ones that have not been enameled, in different sizes, even better. My collection continues to grow. I've broken like a couple of these, so I have 2 of these remaining, but this is absolutely brilliant for mixing, holding mixtures, and for, for example, if I need to put this on top of hot water, melting chocolate in here, or if I'm making a meringue and I need to place this over steaming water, perfect. Metal or glass. You need stuff to mix your cakes in. While you might want to get a workout out from baking, it's not always possible because sometimes you have so many cakes to bake and your hand can only do so far. That's why you mechanize the process. Please get one of these, invest in one of these. A stand mixer is not absolutely essential, but if you bake quite a bit, like I do, you will want to get a good stand mixer. But a hand mixer is absolutely necessary because sometimes you'll be required to cream mixtures, you'll be required to beat egg whites until they are foamy and ribbon stage where they are actually they form stiff peaks. Please get one of these. I don't have any preferred brand, but there are many in the market. Get the one that works for you for now, and sometimes it's just a matter of trying. Try and error until you discover a good one for you. I've gone through, like, in my baking career, I've gone through like 10 of these. Some of them just die, some of them the whisks fall off or they break. But invest in a good quality one. I'll not mention brands, but good quality ones that will last you and you can use for a long time, because some of them, especially if you're a commercial baker or if you bake quite a lot, you want to get a really good one because some of them are made for home use, and if you use them as a home baker or a commercial baker, home baker who bakes quite a bit, and or as a commercial baker, they are not made to withstand such regular use. So invest in a good one. About the stand mixer. Obviously, guys, it's not bougie, it's not it's not snobbish to get one of these. If you are baking quite a bit and are baking big cakes, mixing them by hand will be a bit of work, and you'll be unnecessarily tired and fatigued. So get one of these if you can. And then there are some things that you cannot make. For example, meringue buttercreams. You see, some of them you have hot sugar pouring over egg whites that are beating. You can by all means use your hand mixer, but it's not only tiring and fatiguing and a bit difficult to do, especially because you're supposed to do it slowly. Get a stand mixer. I don't work for KitchenAid, but it's a very good brand, and they last long. And this is a workhorse in the kitchen. I need fondant with this. I need bread dough with this. I cream cake mixtures in this. I make meringues out of this. And like a breeze, I can leave that going on while I do something else. That's the advantage of having a stand mixer. A hand mixer is good, but you cannot, leave it there. You have to be there with your hands, working with it. So you can start here, and then as your baking skills grow and maybe you're selling cake, move here. Your choice. But I've explained the pros and cons of each. Then, if you grow in your baking, you'll want to decorate some cakes. I have a collection of spatulas, metal spatulas. This one is an offset spatula, as you can see. This comes in handy for lifting things like, for example, the cookies we're baking, and I want to remove them from the baking tray without crumbling them. I'll use an offset spatula. Or sometimes I need to lift a big cake and place it on a board, and I don't want to, risk touching it with my hands. I'll use an offset spatula. This other one comes for scooping, and for example, I'm decorating a cake, right? I need to get buttercream down there on the sides of the cake. You understand? I'll use a spatula. Sometimes this is even better, sometimes like for reaching those difficult sides. But yeah, that's metal spatulas for lifting, for getting frosting onto cakes, and for smoothing as well, frosting on cakes, for lifting cakes, for lifting like cookies they were baking and you don't touch it so it crumbles, so you just lift it off, or you want to use it to smooth some icing or frosting onto a cake. All right, spatulas, offset and just straight. This looks like a knife, just a blunt knife. These are available again in most bake supply shops. Different sizes, straight, offset, slightly bent. Offset means slightly bent. You're going to be needing a nice chef's knife to slice. For example, you're making fruit tartlet, or you're making a cake with strawberry slices in the middle, or you're making a cake and you need to slice the what is it called? Slice fruits, or you're making a pavlova and you need to slice fruits neatly. You need one of those. You'll also be needing a chopping board, specifically for cake work. Because look at it this way: if you chop your onions on the same chopping board that you chop your fruits that go onto your cake, you want to taste onions in your cake, please get a specific chopping board that you use just for your cake stuff. Fruits, some bakes require cheese, so you want to have a specific chopping board that does that work. because the one that you use in the kitchen sometimes has meat, sometimes you just chopped meat on it, and the fruits are being eaten raw. You see, you cook the meat, and cross contamination. Keep your knife clean and sharp at all times, and you can Google and see knife skills for different kinds of chopping for vegetables and fruits. It's online. All this information is out there online. Maybe one day we'll do a tutorial, but until then, get a good chef's knife. Another kind of knife to get is a serrated knife or a bread knife. For example, if you are, what is it used for? You're asking. You want your cake rose in a dome. Your cake rose, when it came from the oven, it rose in a dome. You want to slice that dome off so you can decorate your cake, and you have nice even layers. A serrated knife will do that for you. Or you're trying, remember like the red velvet cake, we had layers. It's the same cake, so this will help you to, slice nice even layers without crumbling the cake too much. Serrated knife or bread knife. This is a good to have. If you have a kitchen grater, it will work just as well. But this is it's called a citrus zester. I have a lemon, I have an orange that I want to get the zest from. This is my go-to. It's much easier and it's finer. As opposed to a grater, you see a grater, you are pushing it against this one. You can even use it to go around the contours of the orange and lemon, and you just get what you need, the zest. Just the green or the orange part, that's what you get. It's an essential part to have it, especially when you're making lemon curd. If you're making orange or lemon drizzle cake, go to. This is a gift actually from my sister, Kendi. Shout out to Kendi, my big sister. She got this for me. She saw I'd been struggling with my grater. It doesn't come cheap, guys, but it's a worthwhile investment. Get a lemon zester, or it's called a citrus zester. Amazing. This is a bench scraper. This is a bench scraper. When you're working with flour, for example, bread, you see me sometimes, like when I'm working with bread dough or pastry, I'll use it to, lift the pastry, or I use it to gather my flour together. The other advantage of having this is that I can actually use it to even decorate the sides of my cake. I can use it to decorate the sides of my cake. Bench scraper, they're available. I got this, this is like 7 years old. It stuck with me. It's good quality. So you want to get a good one. They're available in plastic as well, if you prefer that way, or that's what you can get wherever you are. So please get a bench scraper. This is a must-have, not a good to have, guys. It's a basic. It's an essential to get. You want to get some kitchen shears for obvious reasons. For example, I want to line this baking tin. Nice and neatly. Like that. And I'll go, where's the middle? Around there. Then I'll, okay, too big, but scissors, you might need to slice. Sometimes when you're doing the waru pizza, the herbs. See, get a pair of kitchen scissors, handy. They work for things like for cutting, slicing, neatening. If you can't get a pizza cutter for cutting pastries, and I don't have one here, I keep losing them and replacing them, but get a pizza cutter, the one with the wheel. It's for cutting pastry, for cutting fondant, for yeah. Those are the basics. Is there anything else I haven't spoken about here? We talked about the mixing equipment, we talked about protective equipment, we talked about measuring and weighing and temperature control equipment. We've talked about stuff that carries mixtures or to make mixtures in. We talked about rolling pins. We've talked about a bench scraper. Talked about stuff. We've talked about tins to bake your bread or cakes in, or cookies on. This came this came with a cooker I bought. I use them as cooling racks. You can actually repurpose some of your oven racks as cooling racks, as long as you elevate them slightly off the surface with a tin or a cup, and that you want your cake to cool, you want air to circulate around it. So cooling racks, guys, there are better ones. You can actually invest in a couple of really good ones. There are some that fold, so they're easy to store, and they don't occupy a lot of space. Please get cooling racks for your cakes to cool on. These are piping nozzles. I use a lot of disposable piping bags. For example, we talked about the scissors already, so this is what I do. Then put this in there. Then I put whatever mixture I am piping in there, and then I pipe it. Piping nozzles and disposable piping bags. You can get the cloth ones that you use over and over again and wash, but I go through many of them because they start getting holes, and it's easier to just buy a pack of the disposable ones, which I use and discard. There are even some that are not single use. You can buy some that you can wash a couple of times and throw it at the second of that time. Stronger material. This is an ice cream scoop, guys. When I'm making cupcakes and I want exact mixtures, I'll scoop the mixture and scoop and drop it. Scoop and drop it in there. It's much easier that way, and that way you are assured of an equal mixture. I see some people get their mixture and put it in one of these, then snip and pipe it. That's just as well. You can use your temporary disposable piping bags. This is for cake decoration, and sometimes for some bakes, like Sunstar cookies or even eclairs, you pipe the mixture and then you bake it that way. So different nozzles, piping bags, and an ice cream scoop. This can be included in the measuring or scooping equipment that you need. Yeah, I think I've spoken about everything. Do you have any questions for me, guys, about basic baking equipment? I will be doing a follow-up to this one where I'll have you guys ask me questions, but I'll also be talking about different kinds of ingredients in baking, and how to substitute some of them if you can't find them exactly. We'll talk about flour, we'll be talking about icing sugar, we'll be talking about buttermilk, but that's for next time, guys. Thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments, and I will get right back. I will answer you personally. And thank you for joining us on the Joe Murume channel. Please subscribe. Hit the notifications button so you know when we post stuff that is interesting, or content that helps you baking. Or if you know someone who enjoys this kind of content, please share with them. Share with your mother, share with your mother-in-law, share with your dad, share with your buddy, share with your, share with everybody who enjoys baking content. And we will see you next time.